few days ago, I launched a video about a statue that can manipulate water. Today, it's time to play with fire. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. Today, I am reviewing a very rare custom Ifrit statue. Now, if you don't know what any of that means, custom means it was a private, unlicensed commission, and this is Ifrit from the Final Fantasy. Now, I loved Final Fantasy growing up. Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, and then I think I played 7 as well, where you had the huge sword for the first time, but I absolutely love number 1. I've probably beat that game 500 times in my life. It originally was on Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, and Ifrit's from there. He's typically a boss. I believe he was in the first one. I definitely believe he was in the second and third as well. I may be wrong on that. It's been so long since I played. I loved RPG or role-playing games growing up. I can't play them anymore because they simply suck up too much time. This guy is a fiend, villain, god, whatever you want to call it, and he can manipulate fire. He's the elemental for fire. I remember in the first Final Fantasy, you had to beat all the fiends twice. They had water, they had earth, they had fire, they had wind. And this is also a throne statue. And you guys know I love thrones. However, even though this is a throne, I actually keep it here at the office because it's kind of a fantasy theme. As I said in the intro, I recently reviewed this piece by Sideshow Collectibles, this aspen, who can manipulate water. And I think they look awesome paired next to each other. If you want to see what that looks like, go ahead and check out the Extreme Channel Facebook page because I post a lot of pictures and other content on there. The link to that is in the description below. Not only check it out, but make sure you like it. So before we dive into an in-depth review, check out this statue giveaway we're doing. We are going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these two PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. Now, I never purchased from this custom studio before, and I never have since, but it's nothing to do with this guy. I actually quite like him a lot. And one of the reasons I like him so much is because I think he's a fabulous concept. But with concept, we talk about, is it accurate to the source material? Is it cool? Does it make sense? Now, some of that I can answer, some of that I can't, but let's take a look starting at the bottom. So Ifrit is sitting here on what I would call almost like a hellish base. There's lots of fire and molten lava, not only mixed in with the rocks below, but he's created kind of a throne for himself, or he found a throne that'll work, and you can see some fire coming through the rocks. He's sitting on there, and he's not a normal looking creature. He's kind of a mix between a whole bunch of different animals and fantasy type things. So he's sitting there, very smug, his knee propped up, his other leg hanging, these huge nails on his feet, and you'll also see that on his hands. Just very callous, very proud of himself. The particular hand I have displayed, he actually has some fire that's coming out with kind of a very evil laugh. I really like everything about this. It shows that he is above humans. He is above his enemy. He is just really ready for someone to take him on. He's very proud of himself. And I think they capture that really well with the whole statue. They captured the fire aspect of him, and I like it a lot. You know, they could have done a whole bunch of different things with him. Like I said, they kind of did a throne sitting down statue. They could have done an action dynamic pose, a museum pose with some fire around it. And I think all would have been good choices. I think this was a good choice as well. So we're going to grade everything on a 1 through 5 scale. Concept, I give it a 4 out of 5. And that's because I'm partial to thrones. I think some people could maybe see it as a 3 out of 5, which is still a good score. Design, there's some really good stuff and then some stuff I question. So first of all, I don't remember because I've had this for so long, but I think this throne part is a different piece right here. I know this piece in the back is, and the magnets actually have come unglued and unseated. You can kind of see it right here. So right now it's kind of just setting in there, and I gotta remember that when I move it. There's been a few nicks because of that. Ifrit, his head is a separate piece, his horns are, his hands are separate pieces, and now one thing they did to cover up those seam lines is they put this bracelet on there. So that was very smart. Now the fire on his hand right here, that's also a separate piece. And I can't remember for sure, but I believe he had another hand switch out that I would never use that didn't show the fire. And I can't remember if it was up or down, but it's in the box in the Indiana Jones warehouse, so who knows. Let's get the dimensions of him. Kind of hard to tell, but I'd say the widest point, you're probably looking at almost 17 inches. The deepest point is just under 16. and his horn here is a little over 22 inches. Now two negatives to the design really. One, I don't like that he's looking down. So you have to display him at eye level or above to get full effect. Unfortunately, I have him on a bottom shelf right now, which is what it is. So I think that's always a disadvantage. Two, there's a lot of nasty seam lines in where all the rocks go together. Check it out right here. Now, you're going to have seam lines, and I'm not criticizing the engineering, but generally you can kind of sculpt it, especially when it's in the base and different rocks, so you can hide those better. So I think that was definitely a missed opportunity. The last design issue is this leg right here is not leaning on anything. It's probably supposed to be because the way his left leg is raised, so he is getting a thigh workout right here, but take a look at what I mean. It's interesting. It doesn't make sense, and I initially didn't notice this for about a year. Last thing, not really negative or positive, but people really argue, should fire be a translucent resin or should it be a solid paint? I like it both ways. I think it can be done really well. This is a solid paint. I have seen it done better, like XM Studios especially, but I'm not really going to nitpick over that because that's more of a paint and sculpt thing, which we'll dive into in a second. So overall design, I think there's some good things, some bad things, but I think the design's a 3 out of 5. Now is the time we're going to jump into the paint and sculpt on this piece, and just like everything else, there's some really good and some really bad things. Check out the video. All right, so let's start on the base with this guy, and I really like what they did here. This red-orange lava chart effect, it seems basic, but it looks really good, and it really highlights on this piece. To me, this is what hell would look like, this kind of dirty, rocky stone with the fire aspect going to it. The texture on the rocks itself looks good, and I like how there's a little bit of fade of the orange. It seems like a very basic paint job, but it works really well for this piece. And I like how in some places it's more red and fiery than others. Very nice job. I like that throughout the entire part of it, not just the base, but obviously the throne itself is made of stone, and you see that same aspect to it. And I do apologize for the lighting in here. Now with Ifrit, I'm gonna look at his skin first. His skin is very interesting. It's kind of this rock-like hard skin. And just like the base, some of this seems very amateurish to me, but I like it. So really interesting to me. He has all these battle wounds on here. His skin isn't perfect, so you can tell wounds from old battles or whatever that looks like. His hair that covers up his crotch and down here is the same orange color. And again, that's weird to me that he has orange hair, but it works really well with the statue. So it's more of an art direction thing I think I would bash him for. The hair, they could have done more strands in the hair. I think that would have helped quite a bit. A little bit of miss there. Check out his very bony feet. And you'll see this in his hands as well with those very long nails. I like how they highlighted where the fire's coming out on his hand. They painted orange there. Here's a look at the fire. Not the best fire I've seen. I think they could have used some more orange in there. A little too much red maybe. Here's the bracelets they use for those cover-ups. They look good. The gold also adds a little bit of variance to the statue, which is nice. His horns, very shiny. I think they could have made those a little bit more aged. That would have helped. Check out his portrait. Hard to see, as I said, but he looks very badass. Kind of like a mix from different horror creatures that you would see. It's even hard to get close-ups here. I love the huge elf ears, these fangs. I think the face could use definitely some more detail. Very bony, this kind of crazy six-pack he has going on in the middle here. Paint job on the hair is okay. A lot of weird things about this piece for the paint and sculpt. Sometimes it looks very amateurish and sometimes it looks very good. But overall, I'm a fan of the statue. Starting with the sculpt, I think it could have been done much better. It's interesting, like I talked about on the skin, his skin almost looks like rock-like. And I don't know if that's bad sculpt or that's intentional, but for some of those reasons, I think the sculpt's a 3 out of 5. The rock's better than average on the bottom, the whole throne thing, but it definitely could have been better as well. However, I'm really digging the paint on some of this, and I think mostly it's the paint on the base, how they brought out that fire look. I like the paint on the base a lot more than I do on Ifrit himself. His hair, I think, in fire is kind of the weaker part, but the rest of it, I think the paint falls in at 3 of 5 as well. I almost went 4 out of 5 on this, but realistically, I think 3 and 5 is a more fair score. I think retail price on him was right around like $700-800. It was your normal 1/4 scale custom piece. I don't quite remember. I do have everything documented for insurance purposes, of course. But let's dive into the final category, which is not a cumulative score, but does he have the X factor? Is he a 5 out of 5 statue? He's not. So this is not a statue that is in really great detail, but I think it's an awesome addition for a rare character who I have seen done a few different times. But I like the fact it's a throne. He looks evil. I like the fire element of it. I would love to add some type of wind and earth statue to the kind of the elemental fantasy setup I have going on here. But I think it's a 3 out of 5. I think the other disadvantage this has is a lot of people, unless you're a major gamer, you're not familiar with who this is. This is one of the statues, though, I do know people have come into my office, my old office, and they'd be like, who is that? What is that? He looks strange, but he looks appealing. Even though he's a 3 out of 5, which is still a good score, I really like this piece. I don't think he'd be one that I would sell for a while. So let me know a piece that you have that you think is kind of average, but you're just really tied to it for whatever reason. So put that in the comments below, and the reason why I ask you to comment is it'll actually enter you into that contest. To win one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these two pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to another office review. I have tons of other awesome statues that I've never reviewed for you guys, so that I can do here. So make sure you hit that Mr. X logo to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification. Also, check out some of these other custom statues on the playlist. Until I can talk to you tomorrow, take care.